Hello and welcome to another episode of the Uncommon Energy Podcast. On this week's episode, we've got some exciting news for a new YouTube channel that Azul and I are starting under the Uncommon Energy umbrella. We'll talk about that. We'll talk a little bit about some controversy this week and discussion around coaching in the Pokemon TCG, a topic that seems to come up every so often. We'll give our thoughts and opinions on it and maybe share some of the takes that we saw online from others that we found quite humorous. We will, of course, have everyone's favorite segment of the podcast, Guess That Flavor Text. And we're going to wrap things up by talking about the Charlotte Regional Championships this coming weekend, the largest regionals of all time. We've been saying that a lot the last few months. We'll talk more about it when we get there. And then, of course, we will have the bonus episode exclusive to our supporters over on Patreon. If you want to get 30 extra minutes of content from me and Azul every single week, the place to do it is over on the Patreon. Really appreciate all the support over there. But with that being said, we'll hop into this week's episode. My name is Chip Ritchie, joined here as always by my friend and co-host Azul GG. What's up, Azul? How we doing, man?
Doing pretty good, Chip. Had a pretty cool stream over the weekend. We mentioned it last weekend on the podcast. I did the Jake Gearhart versus Isaiah Bradner show match, and I peaked on like Twitch at like 1,900 viewers, and then I got up to like I think I saw someone mention I got up to like 1,200 over on YouTube. So at some point there was like 3K people watching, tuning in and watching. So I was like super hype. Yeah, it was a super cool match to be able to showcase. Um, yeah, it was just a ton of fun to do that. And I plan on doing like more show matches in the future. I'll be announcing that, eventually. Probably plan on doing them about like monthly or something. So, be working on, one for February and so on. But when I get all that situated, I'll make an announcement about that. But that was a ton of fun. It was a ton of fun to do. That's basically pretty much the only thing that happened this week for me. I did some and I'm, like, lost. Yeah, what did I do this week? It was just stream, and then what did I get back from what was the
Your life is a blur, huh?
oh, I came back from well, last week. Oh, yeah, because the last episode was, like, just, like, a couple days ago. That's
Yeah.
right, that's right, 'cause I did it took a little I was like, what did I do this last week? Because I didn't stream that much. Um, but yeah, came back from Portland, went on a little bit of a vacation, got back, podcast, had the show match. That's basically it, to be honest. Had the show match, and then,
We haven't
today I
had a lot
did
of time to be doing stuff
yeah,
between.
yeah. Today I didn't even stream today because I, had I guess, like, business trip type thing that I had to do, so I didn't even stream today. So, yeah, I guess I've just been traveling a lot, to be honest. Been traveling, and about to get traveling again this weekend with Charlotte Regionals coming up, and, yeah, yeah. How about you, Chip? How was your, how was your week? How's your week been?
My weekend, I guess, really, since
Weekend,
our
yeah. Last time we talked yeah, I like, didn't even have that connection. I was like, "Wait, what actually
yeah,
happened
we
since the last
recorded
time we
like 4
talked?"
days ago or something
Yeah,
like
it was like
that.
4 days ago, which was good for us to, um it was good for us to, get the episode even though they're, like, close back-to-back episodes here. I don't think anyone's
Yeah.
complaining. It was good for us to still be get an extra episode out, last week, even if it came a little bit
Yeah, I
late.
definitely would rather release something late than
Not
not
at
put out
all.
an episode, so,
Definitely.
yeah, glad it worked out still, but yeah, had a pretty good weekend, not super eventful, watched, um, a lot of NFL football, playoff football, so there were some good games, a lot of pretty one-sided games, actually, to be honest, which was not what you expect to see. Maybe these next ones this weekend will be I mean, there were still some great games. The Rams and Lions game was a super good one down to the end, pretty much. Um, but yeah, I love watching playoff football. A little bummed that this weekend is Charlotte, and that's when like this is the divisional round. There's only 4 games, and probably only going to get to watch 2 of them because the other ones will be happening during the stream, the show, and stuff like that. I am casting in Charlotte this weekend, so looking forward to that. I'll be there. Azul will be there playing and stuff like that. So looking forward to that tournament. I enjoy Charlotte every year because it's pretty close for me. It's driving distance at least. So that's definitely nice compared to hopping on a plane and flying and, having a really long travel day. Just get to hop in the car and drive a couple hours and get there, which is definitely convenient. And then Monday was a holiday. It was MLK. And so Brooke was off work. And so we got to take Samuel to the Children's Museum downtown, which was a ton of fun. And he had a blast just kind of roaming around, looking at all the different things and watching all the bigger kids run around all around him. It was a good time. So
Is it his first time at the is it the first time you guys have made it there, or
yeah, it was.
I
So
don't know
we
what
actually were
age do
gonna take
you
him for his first birthday last year,
mhm.
but I was sick on his first birthday, so we couldn't go because I was sick. So I, like, felt really bad, and then it's just like we had
Felt
the
really
like, there was so many tournaments, and it just
yeah.
work got busy for Brooke, and it's just like we never found another good time to go. But then for Christmas this year, my mom actually gave us a membership to the Children's Museum, so we can take
That's
him.
nice.
I don't know how often it is. I think we can take him anytime. I'm not 100% sure. It might be a couple times a week or a couple times a month or something like that. But yeah, we
Yeah,
went for the
that
first time on
probably pretty
Monday, and it was
confident you'll
a
get burnt
blast.
out. You're not gonna come every single day of every week, I don't think. I don't think
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah.
they're safe
I don't
giving
know,
it to
dude. Some
you
people
whenever you
probably
want.
would, like
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if the kids like it enough, then maybe, yeah, maybe they'd be down to
it's
take them
pretty
every single day of
big,
every
so
week.
there's a lot to do in there for sure.
Yeah, okay, okay.
But yeah, it was fun. It was a good time. But yeah, let's go ahead and hop into this week's episode. First thing is a bit of an announcement, but also a little bit of a topic too. And that is a brand new YouTube channel that we've started for the podcast. It's youtube.com/at uncommon underscore energy. So the same handle as our Twitter account. It'll also be linked in the description. And our first video on it is going to be coming out today, the same day this podcast releases. So if you're listening to this after it came out, feel free to go check over there and see if it's already come up. But yeah, we're really looking forward to it. I think the plan is to just do other types of content under the Uncommon Energy umbrella, stuff different from what Azul does on his YouTube channel and his Twitch stream. And I don't really make content anymore on YouTube, so it's like kind of a chance for me to get to hop back into that sphere, but also, having someone to do it with will be, I think, helpful. But yeah, we're looking forward to it for sure. We have some tons of ideas. We'll see kind of how it all comes together. We'd like to, at least to start with, get like one or two videos out a month, hopefully more than that in the future. But yeah, looking forward to what we have to come on the Uncommon Energy channel.
Yeah, definitely gonna be a little bit more, what the word? Yeah, so it's gonna be a little bit it's not gonna be content's not gonna be too frequent, but it's gonna be a little bit more long form content, I guess is the way to put it, and also, like, more well edited,
More like
especially
edited and
yeah,
more
yeah,
put
stuff like
together.
yeah, that's a good way to put it, yeah. More structured, scripted, whatever you wanna call it. So yeah, definitely go check it out. Was it uncommon underscore energy?
Yeah,
Was the non underscore one taken?
it was taken.
Always taken, bro. What the
I know.
heck?
A bit of a bummer.
Yeah, that is unfortunate. But yeah, go check it out. Link will be in the description, for sure. So yeah, the first video, yeah, but yeah, not won't be like a ton of content, but as quickly as we can get it out, and as we come up with new ideas and stuff, we'll just still continue to pump out as much content as possible over there.
Yeah, that is the plan. No spoilers on what the first video is gonna be, but
Yeah.
we put a lot of work into it, and, I think it came out pretty good. I think it came out pretty good, and I think people are gonna be excited about it and enjoy it and be looking forward to part 2. That's kind of what we want to, is that people will be excited about it. But yeah, we're able to do some kind of we have tons of, like, ideas and thoughts of, like, different projects we would like to do and just different content we'd like to make. Um, so yeah, thank you guys for listening to the podcast, supporting us here on the YouTube channel for the podcast, for supporting us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and all the places you listen to it. And then for those of you supporting us over on Patreon as well, those things are going a long way to help us try to achieve kind of some of our different ideas and goals, and allow like the things that are in our head to come to fruition, which is pretty fun.
Yeah, for sure. We appreciate it as always. With that said, we can go and jump into our first main topic, I guess, of the podcast today, which is coaching. And I guess we never really talked about. Have we ever brought up and talked
I
about
don't
like
think we
the
have done a coaching topic ever before. So,
yeah,
which is kind of wild
um,
because this discussion comes up, it feels like a couple times a month, or not,
yeah,
not a couple times a month, once every couple months.
yeah. We're not going to be talking too much about like coaching in general or the idea of coaching, but just I guess like a couple like consistent. I wouldn't even say it's topics. It just feels like general jabs at people who coach. Is that I think that's the best way to put it, to be honest, because it's very much, um, it's like, yeah, it's just people kinda subtweeting people who coach in the
It
Pokemon
feels like
TCG.
the basis of this discussion does always kinda come up around some person comes out and says, "I don't think people who don't have great accomplishments in the Pokemon TCG
Yeah,
should be qualified to be coaching other people on how to play the Pokemon TCG." And that feels like it's kind of the basis of
yeah.
where this discussion begins.
I feel like the other one that maybe comes up too is just, like, the idea of what people are charging for their coaching as well comes up a little bit too. I think the main problem with that argument specifically is you wouldn't hold the same standards for anything else in life, basically. Um, so like the main one that does come up, I think you're right, is the are the like basically questioning uh are basically questioning the quality of the people who are coaching based on their previous or lack of
Their
accomplishments.
qualifications.
Yeah, qualifications basically. But like Um, this is like I put out a video myself, just kind of covering the main topics that people kind of bring up about coaching these things, and giving my kind of opinion on it. But you basically wouldn't hold the same standard for anything else in life. It's almost like the people who are judging the people who are coaching expect that when you go to get a coaching session from someone, you're supposed to be like, if you get a coaching session with Tord, you're supposed to leave the coaching session as good as Tord, which first is impossible. No one would be able to take an average player cannot get an hour of coaching from Tord and be as good as Tord after an hour, right? Um, and then it's also like not necessary. The point of getting coaching is to leave the coaching session better or on track to be better than you were previously. And that's really it. And then depending on what the coach is able to teach you, how good they are, or what their ceiling is, their ceiling as a coach. Which I do think there is probably some level of limitation in a 1v1, not like a 1v1 mental game like Pokemon or even like chess, where there's probably a limitation is like if you're better like solidly better than someone, you probably can't learn very much, if anything, fundamentally from them. Um, at like Pokemon or chess. But if they're better than you, or if they just have more information on like specific things, so like chess would be like certain board states or openings, you could probably still learn from them even if you're fundamentally better at the game than them. And same thing with Pokemon. And I even gave the example on my video. It's like if like right after Peoria, I want to learn a lot about Miraidon in a very short amount of time, I would like hit up Jesse Parker and ask him for like an hour of Miraidon coaching, right? If I was trying to be time efficient. I don't think Jesse's gonna teach me anything fundamental about the Pokemon TCG, and if I play enough with Miraidon, I'm confident that I could get as good at the deck as he is, or, I could skip the 16 hours of grinding with Miraidon, or at least lessen it and then hit up Jesse for, like, an hour of coaching, right?
Yeah.
And theoretically, anyone, as long as they're better than you or have some information you want access to, you can leave a coaching session more informed and better at a deck or a situation, or just fundamentally at the Pokemon TCG, than you were when you went into the coaching session. So you don't really need any pre qualifications. And we wouldn't hold the same standard for literally anything else in life. Like there's math teachers who teach in college, and there's math teachers who teach in high school, right? And they're not like you don't go into a math class and expect to be fully maxed out on math after one class. Like it's not how anything
Maximize your
else.
math stat.
Yeah, there's like steps and stages, and there's potential for steps and stages. And of course, there are some people who get like tutors for like piano, and they're like ridiculously high level tutors, right? But people like there's different avenues to learn stuff, right? And like, I don't know if you get like a go to a guitar shop to get guitar lessons from who's ever at the guitar shop, it'd be cool to maybe get guitar lessons from like Jimi Hendrix or something, but like, you got to start somewhere and get better
But
somehow,
he's
right?
dead.
Yeah, and he's dead. Like, so it would take a whole another process to get there. So like yeah, as long as you're improving and getting better, that's the point of getting coaching. So as long as that's happening, while you're getting coaching, then I think it's fine. And I think all the coach and the other thing, like, I don't think any coach in the Pokemon TCG, from my experience of just kind of seeing uh, the whole thing develop, because I've been around, like, since coaching has become a thing. Like, I've started when I started playing, the coaching really wasn't a thing unless, like, it was like, yeah, it was like basically wasn't a thing unless you had like a really
Yeah.
good player, just like coaching a junior or a
It was
senior
like friends at
locally.
league pretty much, or like mentor at
Yeah,
league more than anything.
yeah, basically. But yeah, I don't think anyone in the current ecosystem of coaching in the Pokemon TCG is like trying to make a quick buck. They're either content with what they offer as a coach, and then it is possible to outgrow a coach, which I feel like some people are kind of don't get. It's like it's possible to be a coach and not be able to maybe coach someone to the point where they could be a consistent contender for top 8 at regionals, but they'll set them on their path to get there, maybe, right? And then if you outgrow your coach and you need to get a better coach, or you're just on a situation where it's like you just need to keep playing Pokemon and keep improving, then that's fine as well.
Yep.
And it's like, and I also think, well, I guess I'll let you go ahead and if you had anything else you want to say on that, because I can jump to my next point. But I'll let you go ahead and take over from there if you had anything else you want
No, I
to
mean, I
share.
totally agree with what you're laying out and saying here. And, um, I think that tournament results like are something that, it is like an open market as well. Like people can choose to book a coach based on whatever criteria they feel like is worth pursuing a coach for, right? If you feel like pursuing one of the best players in the game as your coach and feel like that's where you're going to learn the most, uh, you know, you're able to book a lesson with Azul or Tord, right? But if you are wanting to learn more about a specific deck, or you're just looking for some advice or like some basic sequencing help and stuff like that, you don't have to go all the way to the top to learn something. I think that's an important thing
Yeah,
as
yeah,
well, right? Like there is something like you can anyone uh can learn something from the people who are at the very, very top. I feel like, like just about anyone could benefit from time playing Pokemon with Azul or Tord. Um, but there's like more to it than just like depending on what your needs are. Like if you have a specific deck or like matchups and stuff like that, or if you're literally just starting out as well, like just about anyone, if you're like literally just starting out, just about anyone is going to be able to come away with having
yeah,
taught you something, that you
yeah.
didn't know before.
Just literally playing against literally anyone. So yeah, yeah, I think it's just like there's like a lot of weird takes that you just wouldn't apply to any other situation ever in life. Like, yeah, like another example would just be like, I don't know, if you're a kid who like wants to eventually make it, you know, to the NBA and you're playing basketball, you start with your high school coach,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
as you get better, you might outgrow your coaches. And I mean, eventually you make it to college and you get
You
better
might get a
coaches.
private coach, right? You start with what's offered at your public high school, right?
And
And
then
then you
you
like
might get a private coach,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and then you, like, just kinda progress and, like, you can definitely, like, outgrow your coaches, how much can they actually teach you, and then hopefully you get to the NBA, and hopefully the coaches in the NBA can actually consistently teach you stuff and, like, work and strategize with you to make you a better player, but, like, yeah, you just don't apply this logic that people have in the Pokemon TCG community to literally anything else in life, so it's so weird that people apply this to the Pokemon TCG coaching. It's just, like, so bizarre. It doesn't make any sense at all that it's, like, just because the people are in the community, they apply it to the Pokemon TCG when you literally would not apply this to literally any other learning system or process, or just for the sake of trying to learn in general, like ever. It makes literally no sense that the takes exist the way they do in the Pokemon TCG. I guess like the other thing I'll just mention real fast, like I mentioned before, like the other thing is like price point is something that sometimes people bring up, or I've seen brought up, and it's just like that's much so now that's much so more relevant for the coach themselves. How much is their time worth to them, not how much is their coaching worth to you. Now, if they are trying to like fill their schedule based on their marketing and their achievements definitely matter for potentially getting clients. Their marketing, their achievements, and then like the reputation they built up as a coach. Like they'll be able to charge more or have to charge less if they want to fill their schedule, right? So the market just was like self-correct in that sense, where it's like if someone comes in with no achievements, but maybe they are pretty good at Pokemon, they are a pretty good coach, but they have no achievements, they don't market themselves well, they have like no reviews or like people who can kind of vouch for them, then they're probably not going to get very many clients. So they have to kind of start at a lower price point to build up their reputation. And then at that point, they could theoretically have someone who could charge as much as I do for coaching with 0 top 8s at regionals or international championships, if they're able to establish themselves and build up their brand, market their coaching well, then also they would have to be a decent coach as well, right? And maybe
Yeah.
they might not like, let's say I can get you to like 80% efficiency at Pokemon. Maybe they can only get you to 60% efficiency in Pokemon, but that's a huge step for so many players, right? And then maybe they outgrow them as a coach and they move on and they just like work on their play themselves, or they try and seek out someone of a higher level who can get them to a higher level of efficiency. So they're not trying to become this coach isn't like not trying to become the greatest player in the world, but they're just like, this is what I'm doing, and I can get you to this point, and after that, good luck. But like I can get you there at the very least, and I can get you there well because I'm good at teaching as well, right? They could theoretically be a good teacher. So, um, yeah, it's just like it's the I felt like I had seen the take one two like before I posted that video the other day on Twitter because I had seen the take like it comes up like every month. I see a new tweet about how people think in general. Um, the Pokemon TCG coaches have a lack of accomplishments or are not like there's not that many people who are qualified to actually be coaches in the Pokemon TCG. Um, I feel like I see that tweet at least once a month, and I just saw it like one too many times the other day, and I was like, I'm just gonna put out my thoughts, my statement, like, and I hope the biggest thing is I don't care really about the people who have the bad takes. I don't care; they can have their bad takes. I'm more so concerned with like people in the community who don't know any better potentially being influenced by these bad takes, and maybe they're a little bit more neutral or don't really care about the topic, but then they're swayed and their opinion and viewpoint of coaching is swayed by these bad takes. That's the way I look at it, and that's what I care about more is like I'm just trying to do what I can to make the community as good as possible. So I don't want people who are kind of have or neutral on the take or don't really have an opinion being swayed to agreeing with the bad takes. So I was like, I'm gonna get, I have like a pretty big voice in the community. I'm gonna get the right opinion, the right takes out there, and hopefully kind of combat the bad takes more so than anything. Because it's just like weird and toxic. Honestly, it's just weird and toxic. Like those takes are weird and toxic. So they don't really need to exist in the community. And yeah, I don't want them to like influence people who, maybe haven't thought about it that much, but then I'll like for just some reason just like agree with the first take they see, which happens to be that bad take. So yeah, I put my video out there kind of as just a way to combat the bad takes more so than anything because I was kind of fed up with seeing another bad take about the exact same thing, which is just yeah, toxic and weird. And listen, if
Yeah.
someone truly is a bad coach, I think the market will filter them out of the system. They won't get repeat clients. Everyone's doing coaching with the idea of getting repeat clients and getting more clients. So if they truly are a bad coach or charging too much, I think the market will self-correct and the system will push them out of being able to be a coach because people will stop getting they won't get repeat clients. And because of like their bad rep or whatever, they won't get new clients either. So like the market will self-correct or does self-correct.
Yeah, and to your point too about outgrowing your coach, right? I think that's another thing as well that people should think about when they're seeking out coaching is like uh like try to maximize your time with your coach as well, like learn what they can teach you, but you need to do more than just that. If your time of playing the Pokemon TCG every week to try to prepare is 1 to 2 hours of coaching, and then that's all the Pokemon you're playing,
Yeah.
you're not getting nearly enough out of it if you're trying to really be a competitor right now. If you're just someone who's like going to your first regional and you don't have the time to play and you feel like I think that's the type of person that hour of coaching could benefit them greatly. Tournament prep and matchup talking through like if they've decided what deck they're
Yeah.
going to play and stuff like that, because they don't have the time to really play a lot of games. But if you're really trying to compete, like you got to play a lot of Pokemon outside of just your coaching as well, and then eventually you will outgrow what a coach can teach you. Like if you like become a strong enough competitor, like if you really want to become like one of the very best competitors. And this I think mostly is going to apply to like the younger players as well, like seniors and juniors, because all the best seniors and juniors right now are getting coaching. And eventually, once they've learned enough and they've developed their friends in the community, you move away from needing a coach and you move into having a testing group and discovering
Yeah.
stuff and growing together, right? Like, when's the last time you, Grant, or Caleb got coaching from anyone? Like, you don't need coaching. You guys know
Yeah.
your fundamentals of the game, like, but you learn stuff together. You discover things together through your testing processes, right?
Yeah, that's
Um,
definitely a good thing to point out, to call out for sure.
yeah.
I had a follow-up for one of the things. What was the first thing you said? Because I forgot. I had, like, a follow-up to, um
About, like, playing outside of just your, like, 1 to 2
oh, yeah,
hours of
yeah, yeah.
coaching,
That's
yeah.
actually something that I've actually been, um with, like, the newer people, or as I'm, like, it's just, like, something, like, even, like, was it last week, the week before last? I don't remember, but something I'm starting to actually, like, put out there in my coaching is, like, you need to play enough games of Pokemon. So I've been, like, telling people to pi we have to, like, you have to start by picking a number of games you think you can play each week, and then try and find a number of games that you can comfortably play each week. Because, like, everyone's situation is different, right? Everyone's situation is different, work, school, whatever it might be,
Yep,
kids. So it's like you need to find a number of games that you can comfortably play each week, and you have to make sure you hit that number. Come up with that number is, and then we wanna come up with a number that you can actually, like, if you have extra free time, we wanna actually find a number that you can consistently do that kind of gets you playing the most Pokemon each week. So that's something I've actually been, like, pushing on the people that I coach with, is like, this that's I guess it's like it's kinda like homework, right? You have to play 50 games each week at least or
yep,
something, which I think is good. I think it's good probably for a lot of people to set that number of games, for sure. If you just
yeah,
find, like, you're progressing, but you wanna be getting better, you wanna be competing more, like, but you feel like you're just not playing enough Pokemon, just, like, yeah, be like, "I'm gonna play in," or, like, find some online tournaments that work for you and make sure you play in all those online tournaments every week. Because a lot of the online tournaments are, like, regular every single day, like, it's every Tuesday, every Thursday, whatever, the same online tournaments happen at the same times. So even, like, picking 2 to 3 online tournaments to play in every single week would also be a good practice to put forward. But just kind of make sure you're playing. Yeah, no one plays enough Pokemon for the results that they expect. I think I said that like 2 weeks ago or something. It's like even the best players in the world don't play enough Pokemon for the results they expect. I feel like, especially for the results they expect. Like there's way too many players in the game who expect more without having done anything, or done very little. Like the ceiling in Pokemon is super high, and the room to take advantage of that ceiling is also very open for like many players to excel at the game. It's very easy. I said this a while ago on Twitter. I think it's very easy to outwork uh, everyone in Pokemon right
yep,
now. Like the ceiling is not consistently being pushed by that many players.
yep.
You can just work harder than your opponents, which is literally everyone else in the room when you show up to like a regional championship. You can outwork like 99% of the competition pretty easily, to be honest. So, gotta put in the time.
Gotta put in the time. Yeah, I've said this to parents many times of, like, seniors and juniors that I've coached. Um, you know, if you think about a kid who is trying to, like, excel in football or baseball or something like that, they're probably gonna wake up in the morning and have some, like, exercise or practice or something like that, and then they'll have practice after school, and you have to like, it's not gonna just happen if they like, for the people who are, like, trying to compete at the highest level, like, they have travel teams, they go on weekends and stuff like that, it's not gonna just happen from your hour of like, if you're playing basketball, it's not gonna happen from just your hour of basketball practice after school, right? You come home, you shoot hoops, you go out in the morning, you shoot, work on your handles or whatever it is, right? Like, there are always things to be working on and improving, and so you gotta play the game, it's more than just your coaching session.
Yeah, exactly. You gotta really work on it. And that's almost like something I almost try and like when I coach with people sometimes, I try and guilt trip them into it. It's like, if you're gonna put this money forth to
Yeah, if
get
you're gonna pay for
coaching,
the coaching,
you
like
better be putting in the games besides that. But now I've taken it to a next level recently where I'm like, all right, we're gonna come up with a number of games that you
mhm,
should at least be playing and make sure you're hitting like the maximum amount of games you can comfortably play week after week. So it's gone further than me just saying, hey, you're getting coaching. You should put in the extra effort and play a lot of games of Pokemon. Try and play some online tournaments. Now it's gotten to the point where I'm like, okay, let's find some online tournaments you can routinely play, or or come up with a number of games on top of that, or instead of that, that you're going to be hitting each week to make sure you're playing, keeping yourself honest and playing as much Pokemon. Yeah, because if you're going to go out of your way to get the coaching, you really, yeah, the reps are the things that matters. The hundred
yeah,
of hours of Pokemon outside of the hour of coaching is the biggest difference maker. The
yeah.
coaching can get you on track or keep you on track, or get you onto the next track, the next level, whatever, that you need to be on for the
Coaching should just be a supplement to
yeah.
you already playing, however much Pokemon.
Unless you're
That
gonna
is
pay me to literally play with you like 8 hours a day, but
yeah, yeah, yeah.
like that's like if you're not gonna do that,
And
then
not
let's
only if you're gonna spend the money on, like, the coaching, but if you're gonna spend the money to go to, like, the tournaments and stuff, right,
yeah,
like, it's
yeah.
such a big investment, it almost feels silly to not
I put in that extra
put in
time.
the time to, like, make sure that your investment has a chance to, like, bear fruit, really, you
Yeah, but
know?
I mean, if you just wanna roll up with, like, I don't know, your Lugia deck and just have fun with Lugia, that's fine as
Of
well, but, like,
course, of
there's, like,
course.
2 different,
It
kinds of
depends
players,
on
I guess,
what
that
you're hoping to get out of it, right? If you're going because you love playing Pokemon and you just wanna have fun and play whatever deck, that's, like, totally different than someone who, like, they're fighting to try to make top 8, you know, they wanna prove themselves, they wanna be a competitor, they wanna get their world's invite, whatever it is, right?
yeah, and actually one of the reason we want to talk about coaching a little bit was not just my video, which you should go watch, it's on Twitter. Also go watch Henry Brand's video as well, it's on Twitter as well. His is, like, a lot shorter.
Mhm.
It doesn't cover all the points that I cover, but it's really concise and really good, a really good example. So go watch Henry Brand's video. And then there was a tweet in the VGC community, which is the first time I've seen anyone talk about coaching in the VGC community. Yeah, if you want to go ahead and read the tweet, Chip, go ahead.
Yeah, this comes from Lorcy, who's a pretty good VGC player. Says, I'm a VGC coach and I will always be the first to tell you don't pay for coaching and just grind the game. If you want insight from a player who you like, then paying isn't bad at all. And or if you can't play much at all, but the coaches learned by grinding and playing with friends. So he's saying like the coaches got to where they are by just, playing the game themselves. So you should, take a note from that. And Wolfie, who is one of the biggest names in VGC, probably the biggest name in VGC,
Yeah,
he's
by
like
far.
the Tord and Azul of the VGC community, if anyone doesn't know
He's
who
like
he
surpassed
is.
that though. He's like almost
He
mainstream YouTuber
he's like if
status.
Tord ate Azul and then became mainstream.
Yeah, with our powers combined, Tord, let's do it. We'll overtake Wolfie. We'll have to like
He
morph or
said
something and
and and his reply was, "It feels like there's a lot of weird moralistic stuff going on with coaching. If people want to offer a service and other people want to pay for it, what's the problem? If you pay for coaching and feel like it was a waste of money time, then you probably wouldn't do it again, and that's that." And it
so
almost feels like Wolfie's
Wolfie.
kind of echoing what you were
Yeah,
saying.
it was a great take, like yeah, great minds think alike here with Like, Wolfie's take is literally just correct, like, my take is also correct, and Henry's take is also correct. I actually think Lorcy's take is bad. Now, he does clarify a little bit further with some of these replies that he's not saying you just like, coaching is bad. He's just saying I feel like the message he's trying to get out there is, like, you gotta play a lot,
Which is what
and
we're saying too.
and he's almost saying, like, there's no reason to pay for coaching. The biggest thing is, like, do you have time to play a lot is a big thing, which I don't think he really clarifies in his initial tweet, which he probably should have. Um, but, I think he's saying if you do have the time to just play a lot, you should just play a lot and not get coaching, which I actually honestly disagree with. If it's not a if you can, like, if the money doesn't matter to you to pay for coaching, and you just wanna get better just pay for like, I think you should just pay for coaching, and I'm saying this as someone you can't pay me for coaching because my schedule's full, so you have to go pay someone else for coaching, but I honestly think if you can afford coaching and you just wanna get better, you should get coaching, and you might have to shop around a little bit to find what works for you or who you're looking for. Um, but I kind of disagree with his initial statement. I think you should go get coaching if you just want to get better faster. You do that for literally, and this is like another thing where this also just doesn't apply to literally. We would not apply this statement from Lorcy in any other aspect in life. If I want to go get better at basketball, I am hiring a basketball coach. If I want to get better at basketball by myself, I can do that. But I'm trying to get better faster. I'm going to hire
But
if
you
I wanna
can't
get
go out and hire LeBron to teach you basketball.
that's true because he's not yeah, I can't hire LeBron, um, but yeah, there's, like, no reason there's no reason to not go get a coach. Like, I wanna get better at, I'm especially skill set stuff like that where there's so much to gain from like, there is other I was about to say, like, video editing, but most of my video editing I've learned from honestly, though, I would if I want to get better faster at video editing, though, I would hire someone to teach me video editing. I'd
I
go to
have
what
thought about, like, taking a Adobe class to, like, get better at video editing, but I just don't do it enough to, like,
I've always
make
heard
something
good
like
things
that
about
worth it.
the yeah, I've always heard good things about that site, Skillshare, I think. I've only ever heard
Yeah,
good
yeah,
things
yeah.
about, like, the sites like Skillshare where it's like people put classes why I think that reminds didn't Ninja have a Fortnite class on Skillshare, or am I trolling? No, how to
It
be a streamer.
he had a
Yeah,
master class on how
on
to
how to be a
stream.
streamer.
I actually watched there's a really good do you know who Drew Gooden is?
No,
He's a
wait.
commentary
Yes,
YouTuber,
I've
and
seen this video, though.
he did
I
a really funny video reviewing the Ninja masterclass,
or that's the
and
only it's the only bad thing I've heard about Skillshare, to
yeah.
be honest, is
The Ninja masterclass, I think, was not it, for sure.
no, would not recommend that one, but I've heard of good things besides that of people who have learned stuff on Skillshare. But yeah, like if you want to learn something fast and you have the money for it, then you should. Like, it doesn't make any sense to not
But
at
also,
that
it's not a
point.
requirement. I think
Yeah,
that's
it's not a
important
requirement.
too. You
Well,
don't
I mean, that's
have to
what
get a coach to become a great Pokemon TCG player.
yeah, and that's what Lorsi's saying, but I feel like he's not saying the other part of it, which is, like, if you can afford it and you wanna get better faster,
It
you
is
just go
beneficial.
get coaching. Yeah, like, I feel like he's, like, way too on one side and then kinda backtracks a little bit in the replies, but that's because I think he didn't, like, fully it's like his first tweet, he, like, stopped at the 280 characters and was like, this is 280 characters. I'm just gonna stop here. Like, and didn't want to continue the thought process because he does like definitely change up his thoughts, or he does clarify a little bit better in the replies. Where it's like, no, if you can afford a coach and want to get a coach, you should get it. You go ahead, get a coach. Yeah, even if you don't have to pay for coaching, you don't need a coach. But if you can afford it and you want to get better faster, it just kind of makes sense. And then, like I said, we wouldn't treat this thought process to anything else in life that like Lorsi's initial take with the first tweet is like we would not apply that thought process to literally anything else in life. So why would we all of a sudden apply it to VGC or TCG coaching? We wouldn't. It's the exact same thing. It's not about VGC. It's not about TCG. It's about learning. What is the correct and proper best ways to learn, most efficient ways to learn. The question is just can you afford them? I guess, but besides that, it's just like we know what those are. We've been learning for humans have been learning for a really long time, and we've gotten better and better at it. We're refining the process. So we already know that it works, and it's best to get someone else to teach us who's better at the thing that we're trying to learn. So,
And I
but
think
yeah.
another thing, what just one more
Oh, go
thing.
ahead.
We've been talking about this topic for a little bit, but a point that we haven't hit as well is just because someone is a really good player does not mean they are a really good teacher, and just because someone doesn't have results doesn't mean they're not a great teacher.
Yeah, yeah,
And I think that's an important thing too. It's like it might be harder to learn from someone who has a bunch of top eights just because they don't have the ability to like convey how they how they approach the game and their thought process and stuff like that compared to someone who's really good at like breaking down and forcing their student to like think and learn and stuff like that.
yeah. Definitely, definitely, definitely. Yeah, like I said, I think there's a little bit of a barrier to learning like the cores and fundamentals of a game if you are better than someone or eventually get better than someone. But up until that point, if they are better than you, they will be able to teach you something. And if they're a better teacher, they'll be able to teach you more in less time and so on.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep. There it is. There's the coaching episode, I guess. And
Yeah. Kind
from
of
there,
filler.
we can, yeah, before we move on to our next part of the podcast, we do have to take a moment to say thank you to our amazing sponsor, Dragon Shield. We really appreciate the support they give us here at the Uncommon Energy Podcast. They make some of the best products in the game for sleeves and binders, deck boxes, play mats, so much more. Azul probably has no clue what color he's rocking this
I
weekend.
got the tangerines this weekend. We're
Oh,
locking on
okay.
tangerines. Yeah, I've like gone through my mishmash of like random colors, and now I'm just on basically just tangerines. Tangerines. And then Dragon Shield's hooking me up with some more sleeves to close out the rest of the season. I got the Auroras coming in
Ooh.
a case or so of Auroras coming in. So I'm all stocked up, ready to go. Got the tangerines for this weekend. Excited to rock them. And yeah, big shout out to Dragon Shield as always. For sponsoring the podcast. Check them out over at dragonshield.com. You can use the code UEPOD. I almost always say EU. Well, I guess that makes sense because of the EU. UEPOD. I was like, why am I like gravitating towards saying EU? But then I was like, oh, the EU. Yeah. UEPOD to receive 5% off. Check out our link in the description below if you're on YouTube. If not, you can make your way over to YouTube and go click on the link.
Yeah, if you purchase anything with that link, it does support us a little bit, but it's also helping you get a little bit of a discount on some of the best products in the game. Once again, that code is UEPOD, UEPOD. Thanks a bunch to Dragon Shield for sponsoring the cast.
Yeah. One thing I would say, like, just to kind of, because I had this thought, I'm hoping just like, I mean, I don't think we're ever going to talk about this coaching takes ever again, but hopefully it does shut some of them down. And like I said, I just want to get I feel like people didn't really counter the people who were making these statements too often, but hopefully, this kind of sets people on track to like understand how they should be viewing the idea of coaching. You don't need it, don't have to have it. If you want to get it, go for
There we go. It's a
it.
free country. Do what you want.
Well, you can get coaching from other countries, I guess. Not
Yeah,
everywhere's
sure, sure, sure.
America.
All right. And with that being said, it's time to move on to everyone's favorite segment of the podcast, Guess That Flavor Text, where each week Azul or I picks a card, reads the flavor text from it, and has the other host try to guess which Pokemon that card belongs to. You get to use 3 lifelines to potentially help you whittle down your answer. Those lifelines are what set the card is from, what stage the card is, and read an attack name. We do keep score. You can play for points. You get 4 points if you get it right without any lifelines, and then you lose a point for each lifeline that you choose to use. Current score is 16-11. I had an excellent opportunity last
Dude, it
week
was kinda crazy you didn't get it. People were roasting you in the
to get
comments.
another 4-pointer. Should have at least gotten 3, I guess, but I don't know. I'm kind of fine with how I locked it in. A lot of people were saying that I threw away an easy one, but I
They
don't know,
were
man.
saying that. They were coming for you a little bit.
I guess it's not totally unfounded. But this week it is my turn to pick a card for Azul, and I've got one picked out here. You ready to hear it?
I'm ready, Chip. Hit me with it.
All right. With their large mandibles, these Pokemon can crunch their way through rock. They work together to protect their eggs from Sandaconda.
Oh, dude, I have, like, a Pokemon in my head. Like, is it Kabuto? No. Kabuto? Could be Kabuto. Doesn't it have the I think Kabuto has the things. Maybe it is just Kabuto. But no, but Kabuto's a fossil, so that doesn't make any sense. This fossil Pokemon
I mean, they have to live, you know?
well, yeah, but I don't think they live with Sandacondas. Go ahead, read it to me one more time, and then I'll
With their large mandibles, these Pokemon can crunch their way through rock. They work together to protect their eggs from Sandaconda.
Alright, so I think it's a basic Pokemon. The work together to protect their eggs is just weird. Like, I don't even know what to, like, think. If that's, like I'm trying to think, like, multiple Pokemon together. What's coming to my mind now is Heracross, um, or the freaking I guess it could be, like, the dung beetle Pokemon. Are those mandibles as well? See, I don't know exactly what a mandible is, um, but was it something Roll? It has, like, a face too. It's, like, a weird looking Pokemon. But I think there'd be I'm just gonna I think I actually wanna lock in well, let me go with what stage the Pokemon is first. I'm not gonna make the chip mistake here.
Mm, it is a basic.
Well, now I just kinda wanna lock in Heracross. I could let's go one further though. 2 points would be I'm steadily making my comeback if I just can walk away with 2 here, so let's go with an attack name.
Adversity Jaws.
I mean, I that could be Heracross. I can't think of anything else to be honest. I don't think knowing the set that it's from would tell me if it is or isn't Heracross. Probably. So I'm just gonna lock in Heracross.
It is not
Oof.
Heracross.
All right, well, give me
Not Heracross.
the last lifeline here.
The last lifeline, what set the card is from? It is from Fusion Strike, which I feel like is a pretty popular set choice for us. I think.
There could be a Heracross in there, as far as I know.
Well, Heracross was not the guess.
Was it? Is it the dung beetle Pokemon?
Relor, no, that did not
No.
exist when Fusion Strike came out.
All right. Well, hit us with it.
The Pokemon is Durant.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Durant. You know, it's really funny. Most of Durant's flavor
That's
texts
pretty good.
have something to do with Heatmore. Like Heatmore and Durant are like,
But that does but like the flavor text does give it away a little bit more, right? Because it said what together or something. They band together to
yeah,
protect the eggs. Yeah. So that I should have probably tried to think a little bit harder about Pokemon with like the what are they called? Mandibles, but they just look like yeah.
yeah. I was kind of
Okay, I
surprised you
can
knew what those
envision.
were, to be honest, because I wasn't like if
I
you
definitely
told
had
me that
heard it.
word, I would be like, I'm not really sure what that means.
Yeah, I knew it was something like the 'cause you said it crushed rock, so I immediately was like, "Oh, it's like a thing on a bug, and it has to
Yeah,
be the things
sure.
that like Caesar or not Caesar,
Used your
Heracross
context
has."
clues.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was like, "Those," because I've definitely heard the word before. If if you didn't say if you just said mandible, I probably wouldn't know what it was. But because you
Sure,
said it in
sure.
the context, yeah, I got it. I got to the point where I knew what they were, or basically knew what they were. I assume that's what Heracross has as well. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm close enough. Yeah, I should have maybe tried to think a little bit more. I don't even remember Durant having mandibles, to be honest. In my head,
Heracross
Durant
is more a horn.
Oh, yeah, Heracross doesn't even have it, you're right. I thought for some reason, I thought it did have, like, 2 things on the side of its head. But you're right, it doesn't really have the mandibles. It does have just, like, the horn. Oops. I guess I kinda goofed that one 'cause I yeah, Durant, I didn't even remember, like, having those, like, the mandibles in the front of its, on its mouth or whatever, in front of its mouth, on the sides of its mouth, whatever it's called. I didn't even remember those, to be honest. I don't think I would've got to Durant. Maybe if I just really thought really, really hard about Pokemon that are, like, come together in, like, a pack,
Well,
got a
not
mouse
really
hold
worth thinking about
situation.
what could have been because what was is the fact that you got 0 points. Let us know
0
down in the comments, were
points.
you able to get to Durant correctly
I also coulda thought
or
about,
not?
like, eggs a little bit more, to be honest. I didn't really, like, put too much thought into the idea of eggs. I was like, what is
All
the egg
Pokemon
look
lay
like?
eggs, you know?
Oh, that's true. Don't aren't all po yeah, all Pokemon lay eggs. I didn't even like, yeah, alright, well, now that just went right over my head. That's true. Well, then why
All
does it care
Pokemon
so much
hatch.
about why does it care so much about Durant's eggs?
Sandaconda?
There's eggs, yeah, there's eggs everywhere apparently.
Yeah, I don't know, Sandaconda was fiending for some Durant eggs. It's their
I
favorite
guess.
flavor, you know?
It must be. Alright,
Alright.
go ahead.
Yeah, well, let's move on to our Charlotte meta talk, meta predictions, just discussing the tournament in general as well. We've said it many times in the last like 6 to 12 months, talking about the largest tournament ever, the largest regionals ever.
It's back again.
It is back again, but it might be tough for something to pass this, to be honest. 2,200 plus masters registered for the event right now. There's going to be over 227 seniors, most likely. And if there is over 227 seniors, that will trigger a 2-day Swiss tournament.
For the first time ever?
Can you imagine what the tournament will look like if there's like 220 seniors and they have to play 8 rounds of Swiss?
Bro, they'll be cooked by, like, round 8. Everyone's just gonna be it's gonna be a
Dude,
throw
it's
fest at
gonna
that
be like
point.
you're gonna have to go 7-1 to make cut. Like,
Everyone's just gonna they'll just, like, call, like, an everyone ties round just because all the kids need to go to bed.
yeah, well, that
Um,
might be what happens when they have 9 rounds of Swiss plus, day 2.
yeah.
So that's gonna be pretty crazy if that does end up happening.
Well, how many are
Uh,
they? I don't even know how many they're at because like, there's gonna be some no-shows, obviously, so I don't even know if they'll get there.
yeah, Overload tweeted the numbers. I'll see if I can find it real
They'll
quick.
be close, but I wouldn't be surprised if they don't get the day 2 in this one. And then
It is very close.
yeah, I mean, NAIC then they would probably get there at NAIC, to be honest. They'll get the day 2 at NAIC. And the only other
Assuming capacity
regionals
more than anything.
yeah, but I think we'll have the space for it at NAIC, to be honest. And then the only other regionals, like Orlando and Indianapolis still could be the biggest regional of the year, I think, for sure. It definitely won't be Los Angeles or Vancouver, but Orlando or Indianapolis could definitely be. That kind of depends on is there enough space is the biggest thing, right? And if there is, are the people going to show up? We could get close for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I think that a big reason as to why this one is so big is because of how much space there is.
Yeah, that might be the key.
I
Just
mean,
if
we
you,
were at Charlotte last year for anyone who was there, I think it was a pretty large tournament. It was like 1,500 people. But there was a huge section of the tournament hall that was just empty. It was totally
yeah,
empty. So that space can definitely be filled in. They'll have access to it. So I think that's definitely part of it. And if you think about the venues we've been to that we're going back to, like Orlando, think about where we were last year. That was the biggest tournament of all time at that point, 1,500 Masters. Can you imagine
yeah.
fitting another, 1,000
I,
people in there for all the
I,
games?
they had a lot of halls though. There's a lot of halls in
Sure,
that
sure.
thing's huge. Wherever we were, I don't know if we're going to be there. Are we in the same place?
I'm actually not
I assume
100%
so. I
sure.
said that International Drive looks familiar, so I'm assuming so.
So, Overload Events did tweet the numbers. Currently 268 Masters, 244 seniors, and then
Even the juniors is
194
getting close.
juniors.
It'd be kinda crazy if we get to the point where, like, all 3 divisions have 9 rounds and day
Plus
2.
day 2, yeah. It'd be pretty crazy.
Like,
Um,
seniors would get so much more competitive, to be honest. That's actually pretty sick for the seniors because right now, um, there was even, like, a junior I coached at Portland who went 5-1-1 and they got ninth. That kinda sucks.
It does suck,
That
yeah,
sucks.
honestly, like, seniors and juniors, it's been like that for a
It's
long
brutal.
time.
That's
Yeah,
brutal.
it has been brutal to make it into top 8.
I almost
Um,
wonder if, like, seniors and juniors should, like, get a top 16 if they don't get a day 2. Like, I don't even think that would be, like, a terrible thing to give them. There's time for them to have that extra round to play out as well. I almost feel like maybe seniors, juniors, and seniors, if they hit the day 2 mark, then they get the 9 plus 5 like we do. But if they don't get there, maybe they should get a top 16 because it
What's
is
the
pretty
normal tie
brutal.
rate for a tournament? Like 10%, something like that? 10 to 15?
15, I think so.
Alright,
Are we
so
looking
a
at
two-day tournament of,
oh 227?
227 people, according to the Limitless calculator, is looking like you're gonna need 29 to 30 match points to be safe, which is a record of 10 and 4, which is
Mhm.
way more forgiving than having to go
Oh, yeah.
6-1-1 and then bubble out, right?
Definitely,
So
definitely.
this is like
Yeah.
a benefit of the system
Also
for sure.
also, if you look over there on the left-hand side, 18 points will make day 2 because 'cause it'll
Yes.
be top 32 or everyone with 19 points.
Yes.
So, you'll like, if you're a senior listening to this, play out your last round because if you go 6 and 3, you're still in day 2, but you have
Yes.
a chance to go 7 and 2. So, it should be
And, like, it's
basically
also
safe.
not it's totally different between seniors and masters, right? Because there's so many people in masters that if you ID at 6 and 2, your chances to make top 8 are diminished super heavily, right?
Yeah.
Of course, there's that whole discussion of what you're trying to play for. Are you
It's
trying
a
to just play
goal.
more
Yeah,
Pokemon?
yeah,
Whatever. Anyway, we've talked about that plenty of times. But in this position, as seniors, you can make it into day 2, and even if you go into day 2 at 6 and 3,
You still make top
you
6,
can
yeah.
lose a round. You have to go
Yeah.
4 and 1, which, is probably gonna be tough, but you can go 4 and 1 and still make top 8.
Yeah, a round is a round anyway, so if you're playing this round now or tomorrow, it's just the same thing. If you
Yeah,
lose and go 6-3, you're still making day 2. So, yeah, for anyone who doesn't know, especially the newer viewers, day 2 is whatever is greater, top 32 or everyone with 19 match points. But when
whichever
we
there is more
have
of, yeah.
yeah, but we're getting to the point where we have, like, 250 people with 19 match points, so it hasn't been close for a long time. But
Yeah,
back in the day, we
yeah,
used to have top 32 making day 2, and not the 19 match points. But, yeah, for the seniors, for these first day 2s, you will be able to just kind of comfortably play out that 6 and 2 record, and then either you go in at 7-2 or you go in at 6 and 3. But when you wake up tomorrow, you're playing out all your rounds anyway, so it makes no sense to not play out that ninth round right there. But as soon as you get up to the 300 mark or a little bit past, like towards 300, that's where you might want to ID to just get 621 in today too.
yeah, for sure. The limitless Swiss calc, which is the tool that we're using here,
It's a rough estimate.
it's a rough estimate. It's definitely not perfect, but as the numbers are adjusting, I just plugged in 227 for this. Like as the numbers are adjusting, you can always try to change what you think, like the tie rate's going to be, and all that stuff like that. So
Yeah, so it is possible even at 227 that some 18 pointers might not make day two. So don't take
right.
what I'm saying here as fact. It's just like it looks like it'll be pretty comfortable.
And there also could be a world where, like, if you could bubble out if you lose, maybe you actually should ID in, right?
Yeah,
Like, if
yeah,
there's
yeah,
gonna be,
exactly.
like, 7 or 8 that miss,
Yeah,
you probably
yeah.
do wanna ID in.
And it wouldn't be hard to do the math as well for that. It'd be pretty
Yeah,
easy to do the math.
exactly. Uh, yeah, gonna be the Wild West for a lot of, senior players out there. Enjoy it, though. I mean, it's a lot more Pokemon, and it's just more beneficial, right? It's like
Yeah.
it takes a little bit of the variance out when you play those extra rounds, right? Because, like, even if you're the best senior player in the whole division, you can hit a terrible matchup round 1 and round 2, start 0-2 or 0-1-1, and then win out the rest of your rounds, but because you started 0-1-1, your resistance is not gonna be good, and you're gonna bubble out. But now that's like you can just win your rounds and get to day 2, your resistance resets and go from there.
Yeah, it's definitely gonna take some getting used to, especially like for the parents as well, because they're gonna have some very burnt out kids after 9 rounds of day one compared to like the 7 they used to have. But yeah, they'll get like it'll be like an adjustment, and I'm sure like the seniors overall, especially the more competitive ones, are gonna love it. More rounds, it's a higher chance for them to do well. We're gonna see some more consistency in the seniors division as well. There's already like a decent amount of consistency in the lower divisions, just because the skill gap is so much higher. But I guess this kind of just adds to that, to be honest. Like we've seen some pretty insane numbers. Like if we get to the point where every regional has the 9 plus 5, I wouldn't be surprised if there was like a senior player who got like top 8 at every single regional, like in a
Yeah, for
season. Like
sure.
that seems really reasonable with if
I
they
mean, you
get
think
their
about
day
the
twos.
difference of what you need to make top 8 at a Masters tournament, right? Minimum record of what, like 11-2-2, and that's like probably bubbling out at this point now.
Yeah, we're bubbling out at Charlotte for sure. They're not
Yeah.
all 35s are not gonna make it. That's for
Yeah,
sure.
and then compare that to, needing to go 10 and 4. Like, that's a totally achievable goal, right?
4 L's. That's a lot of L's to take. I'm fine with that. I'll take
Yeah, that's a
yeah,
lot of
taking 4
Ls.
L's. Yeah, it's a lot of L's, but we can still make top cut. Who cares? We'll take
I
those
did
L's.
see kind of an interesting while we're kind of on this topic, I did wanna bring this up because I did see kind of an interesting point. This is actually brought up by, um, a parent of some kids that I coach as well, on one of the overload tweets where they tweeted about 229 seniors about like, getting to the day 2 triggering and stuff. He put out here and said, "I vote the future regional cap for juniors and seniors stay at 226 at least until the demand makes that impractical. And unexpected day 2 will likely force some parents to incur significant expenses to rebook flight slash hotel or drop their child from the tournament." That is, I think, an element of this. Like everyone
Mm.
is focused on the excitement of the last second, like, oh, we're getting to a day 2 Swiss, but that adds a lot more tournament rounds. People are flying in for these tournaments and stuff like that. And if when you booked your travel months ago, you didn't even have this as a thought in your head, now all of a sudden you have to rebook flights for you and your kid, or your spouse and your kid, or whatever, and 2 kids or whatever. That is an element, right?
Do these parents have no faith in their kids to make top 8, bro? They're just
Well,
like,
well,
"Timmy's not
no, they
cutting it."
do. They do. It's just that they're normally done by noon. They can
Oh,
book a
okay, sure, sure,
they can
sure,
book a
sure.
4 o'clock flight and be fine. But now if their kid makes top 8, they're gonna have to change their flight, right?
Yeah, okay, okay, okay. That's I guess that in that situation, I was like, "We're leaving Sunday morning because Timmy's not making top 8." Like,
No, but, like,
that's
normally,
fair though.
even like, the tournament is done for seniors normally by
Yeah,
noon, right?
mhm, that is fair. That's tough
Overall, I think
though.
it is still, like, a good thing,
Yeah, it's
right?
definitely a positive. I'm, like, thinking about that situation specifically. Is that something they should do? That's tough. I know, like, the seniors wanna get their day to be able to have their day 2 and play as often as they can, as many times as they can. I don't know, that's just kinda tough. I mean, I'm kind of against it overall as, like, a competitive person, because if
You
I was a
want as many people to
senior
play who
if
can,
I was a
right?
senior and I could have day 2, like, I want day why would you take our day like, it feels like when, it felt like that the European events in the Masters division, they were cutting it off right before they got to a 6th round in day 2. Like, some of the I don't think they actually were, but some of the tournament center events were like, 750 Masters. It's like, well, why not just go to 8? Give us the 6th round, in day 2. So I don't know. That felt pretty bad in the master side of things. Of course, it's different because like it's just one more round, and you're gonna have at least the 5. So 5 to 6 doesn't really matter. But yeah, as a competitor, it kind of sucked to be honest. And the kids are competitive, so
Yeah.
um, yeah, I'm not a big fan of the idea of that, but I definitely understand it. And I guess if they did go that way, it wouldn't be completely unreasonable.
I think more than anything, it's, like, definitely annoying for, if this does start to happen more often, it's, like, annoying for the parents
Well, if
to,
it's
like, have to
consistent,
think
you
about and
wouldn't
rebook
know.
and change those plans for
Yeah.
these first couple, but maybe it's something you have to, like, kinda factor in now when you're booking travel for future events, right? Especially for NAIC.
Oh, yeah, I think Orlando, Indianapolis, and NAIC, you should like, if yeah, I honestly it's just like, even if Charlotte doesn't have a day 2 for seniors, like, any of those could. So,
Yeah.
I would just be like, yeah, I would plan as if there's a day 2 for seniors at and honestly, juniors is not that far. At NAIC
194.
yeah, at NAIC, juniors could definitely have a day 2, even at one of these other ones too, like, at Orlando or Indianapolis, juniors could definitely have a day 2.
Yeah. Which this is
So
a really good thing too. We talked about this a little bit, like a couple years ago now at this point.
it was like last season we brought it up as well, just
Yeah,
kind of the
about
lack
how
of
it didn't feel like the juniors and seniors divisions were growing, like how the
yeah.
numbers were not super high. Like there were some juniors tournaments at regionals in like especially the West Coast ones back in like 2022 that had like 30, 40 people at them. Like, it was like, "Oh, man, it feels really bad," but now I think a big part of this is, like, when we've had league cups come back
Yeah,
into the system, and people are competing locally, and it's driving them to, chase a world's invite and stuff like that. We're seeing growth in the younger divisions, which leads to growth in the game for, like, years to come. So it's, like, a super positive thing to see happening for sure.
And actually, to be honest, the more I think and I've kinda come around, I used to talk in the past about we should get rid of the juniors division, go to 2 divisions, or just only have masters. But I think I actually I had a discussion on my with my stream, like, last year sometime, kinda going back and forth about it. I think my conclusion after that discussion I don't even remember what we talked about, but I remember my opinion changing to being like, "You know what? Yeah, we probably should just have juniors and seniors. It probably just makes sense to have them." And I don't think they're going anywhere either, even if I don't want them. I don't think Pokemon's changing anything anytime soon. And honestly, it's kind of cool to see the divisions be this big. It's just like such a positive, yeah, like you said, it's a positive thing for the game to see the younger divisions like be thriving. And the big thing was like definitely a lack of locals because I actually ran into like some people last season and the post COVID half season where they were like they went to the regional but they didn't play because it's like their first time. They didn't know what to expect. They didn't know if they want to,
Yeah.
commit to the full weekend or whatever. They were like, we haven't played locally at all yet or anything. There's no locals either. So like, we just came to see what was happening, see what it's like to be at a regional. So yeah, it's a super. I didn't even think about it like that. It's a super good sign for the game as well. That they're getting close to their day twos.
Well, let's go ahead and move on and talk about the meta for this tournament. Now, for the last several tournaments, it's been pretty solidly Charizard in first place as the most played deck. Charizard still did fine in Portland. Like you had your top 8 finish, of course, and there was plenty of them in day 2, but Giratina emerged as a much more prevalent deck and obviously ended up winning the tournament. Close matchup there with the Charizard. I know you said after playing it more, you really feel like it's kind of 50-50, but
They got the TM Diva. I think you're kind of stomped, but not many people play that.
yeah, yeah. But I think it is a little bit of a question mark now. Charizard, I think for Portland, San Antonio, it was the definite. This is going to be the most popular deck. I don't know that it necessarily feels like that going into this weekend. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely not. It's definitely going to be close. I think I could actually see it being like the third most popular deck. It'd be hard for it to fall that far, though. I feel like, but we did see
Yeah,
that fall from Maridon, right? Maridon was 17% at San Antonio. Come to Portland, it's 10%, which I predicted, by the way. So, like, it could happen, right? But I don't think people are as down bad on Charizard as they were on Maridon, as they were with Maridon. I don't think they should be. I don't think Charizard's like in a truly terrible spot or anything. It's just not as good. Tina's more popular, which, like I said, if they're not like tech for you, and especially with like John winning with the three path build, like three path is so much easier. It's such a big difference
yeah.
to play against three path as opposed to four. To be honest, it's like a huge difference. So if you're gonna be rocking the three paths, that's a plus. Team Divo didn't win, which is also a plus for Charizard because if Sam had won with the Team Divo, there'd probably be a little bit more of that around. But there's gonna be a decent amount of Team Divo in general, so you gotta be careful of that.
Team
So
Devo's from the Charizards.
yeah, from the chart. I think the TM Devo, it's out there now. Everyone knows about TM Devo. Not just in Charizard, not just in Tina, but like you can put in literally anything to have a better Charizard matchup. To be honest, some decks it doesn't make a ton of sense. Like I wouldn't play TM Devo in Golden Go probably, but some decks it makes more sense than others for sure. So, yeah, it's gonna be more hostile for Charizard, I feel like. I thought Portland would maybe be the peak of hostility, but I feel like the idea of TM Devo in the meta hadn't developed as much as it could, and we'll kind of see that, I don't know, final development here at Charlotte. So it'll be a little bit more hostile for Charizard, but you can't really go wrong with Charizard still, I feel like, overall. But it won't be head and shoulders above everyone else in terms of popularity anymore. It'll be close to Tina, if not maybe I could see Guardy or Miraidon maybe passing Zard, but I'm leaning towards Tina probably being the most popular.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm leaning towards as well. I mean, we've seen it convert really well into day twos. Obviously, it just won the last tournament. It was first and second place deck, and it's also, I feel like a pretty approachable deck in the format as well. I think a huge factor for this tournament as well, 2,200 people. There's definitely going to be a decent percentage of people who are just kind of going to their one tournament of the year, right? Like
Yeah,
local or, driving distance, whatever it is. So I think that'll have a factor. And what deck are people playing who are going to their like one tournament of the year? Now, just because someone's going to their one tournament of the year doesn't mean they're not like a competitive player, right? Like they might be playing in their locals and stuff. They just don't have the time or resources to travel to all the tournaments. So a lot of those people are still going to be playing to win. Trying to play the best deck for the tournament. Um, so what does that become? Is it the
yeah.
Charizard still? Does Charizard feel like the deck that's going to win this weekend in Charlotte? I don't
I mean,
know.
less so than it has been. I mean, I think that Tina is that deck that people are gonna gravitate towards for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, they're gonna gravitate towards their Tinas. I guess like the one question there could be is like how much is we just came from the West Coast and we're going to the East Coast, so we haven't had an East Coast tournament, like full East, right? Because we were in what Dallas or Texas before that.
Yeah.
So I do think there is some like region bias with
Really,
that
our
a
only
little bit.
East Coast tournament has been Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I think there's like some region bias where it's like if Europe has their tournament where Charizard's the most popular, it's like post that tournament, it's like, okay, well, Charizard's probably not as great moving forward because it was the most popular, did the best. But it's like America still has to have their tournament where Charizard's the most popular. So I feel like that does kind of happen region to region, where it's like if there's back to back tournaments, Europe into America, the metas will be very similar for those tournaments, because the tournament there's not enough turnaround for people to adjust to what happened in Europe fully, and people don't just want to drop their decks and pick up a new deck just because of what happened in Europe. They're just going to maybe adapt their list, tech for the controls or tech for What else seems like are gonna be the most popular decks in the region that's happening second. Um, but I guess maybe there could be some of that with, just kind of East Coast, West Coast in America as well, or East, West, Central. Like, we haven't had an East Coast tournament in a little bit, so now
Okay. So, as someone
maybe
who's played Charizard these last 2 tournaments, right, and you've kinda seen how
yeah,
the meta has evolved to hate on Charizard, a lot more of those TM Devos.
these
What
haters,
is
bro.
Charizard's answer for that, right? Are we adding the second Charmeleon, or is it something like you just gotta be more mindful of your resources? I think that's a big part of it, right? Like, with TM
Yeah,
Devos out of
not
there.
extending your rare candies, stuff like
Yeah,
that for sure. I mean, I think Radiant Charizard probably comes back into the deck because it's a super efficient late game attacker. Don't need to evolve. Second Charmeleon is also interesting, but it's not something I've actually really tested a ton with. But like theoretically, it's just good to combat TM Devo.
Silene.
Um, but I don't know about that. But it doesn't combat Silene for some rare
That's a
candy.
5th rare candy, bro.
What is it? It could be a sixth rare candy. Hey. um, the problem with like the extra Charmeleon though, it doesn't really it's not anything different. But the Radiant Charizard kind of gives you something different to work with for
Sure.
sure. So, and with that, like I would include and then we actually for Portland maybe should have done this anyways. There's some like Vitality Band has its situations where it's better than Choice Belt, but Choice Belt is if you're gonna put the Radiant Charizard in there as well, you may as well hit for 280 against a Tina. So it also
Yeah.
allows you to hit the 330 against Rapid Strike, which that matchup is terrible if the Rapid Strike player plays well. But if they slip up a couple times or just don't draw very well, then the Choice Belt can come in clutch for sure to close out on a VMAX.
So looking at Lost Tina, I think it'll probably, we're it sounds like we're both kind of thinking that it might be the most popular. I think there's a chance Charizard
Yeah.
still just remains up there, but
It'll be close though if it does remain. It'll be like 15, 14 or something
sure,
if it
sure. But if Lost Tina does become the most popular deck, um, which way do you think people should look towards what list to kind of mimic with the way they go? Are we playing the Manaphy like John did, or are we leaving it out like Sam did? Are we adding in the TM Devo? Are we getting the fourth path in there? Like, what are the techs, those last few spots that you feel like are really beneficial for Giratina heading into this weekend?
Well, I wouldn't play one thing. So there are things that I like about some lists. Like I like the no Manaphy. I know Bradner's a big fan of it for the mirror match, but I don't think it does that much in the mirror match. I generally like four path. I do like the Avery. I think head into the tournament because I think Guardy will be fairly popular and actually do fairly well as well. So I kind of like the idea of the Avery. TM Devo, I feel like people are pretty or a little bit more down on Charizard, so I don't know if I wanna commit to the TM Devo for that matchup because the matchup's, like, fine. It's, like, 50-50. So I don't know if I'm trying to tech for Charizard going to this, because like, the most down people have been on Charizard, or I guess we could just call it least popular Charizard will have been for the next, for a little while, right? So I feel like maybe don't it's not worth teching for the Charizard, because of that, but you can't really go wrong with the TM Diva, especially because it is good against Gardevoir as well. So if we are thinking about maybe the tech for Gardevoir, so maybe that makes sense more to play the TM Diva than the Avery, because then you have like a little bit of a tech for a card that's good against Gardevoir as well as Charizard. So maybe it is just kind of like the universal tech. But Avery is a draw supporter in every matchup in any situation you want a draw supporter. So that's like the value of playing like the Avery. So I haven't really fleshed out those tech cards enough to have too strong of an opinion. The one thing I definitely don't think I don't really like the Manaphy. And I do like the fourth path. It's really good in the Charizard matchup. Just being able to constantly pressure them with path and try and get one to stick, and be more likely to do like the double Roxanne path plays at the end, or like Roxanne path into Roxanne path. And then it's also good against Gardevoir too, which is like another deck I'm not playing in super like high fear of, but like it's there. Gardevoir's there, and it's like if the Guardy heads want to roll up, it's going to have a good tournament. It kind of depends on if the Guardy heads roll up or not, though. I guess I was going to say Michael Davidson and Bodie Robinson will probably roll up with Gardevoir, but Jake Gearhart as well. There's some diehards out there for sure, but we need like if there's a couple more that decide to bring it, like the Cal Connors who like sometimes bring it or sometimes don't. It'll have a pretty successful tournament, kind of based on how many people choose to bring it.
So I guess I think an important question around the Gardevoir right now, especially after the match this weekend between Jake and Isaiah. Is this card worth playing in the deck? You got to see it in full form. Probably not
uh,
the matchup that it's most useful for.
Yeah, it's there for Iron Hands.
Yeah.
And I actually think Miraidon's like in a pretty good spot. I think it'll be more
It's
popular
pretty good
maybe.
against Urshifu too, by the way.
Oh, it is pretty good against Surgifu too. But to be honest, Rapid Strike is like what Rapid Strike is probably just. I've come down a little bit. I've come down off my high off Rapid Strike a little bit recently because I think the deck is a little bit more clunky than I initially gave it credit for. Because these metas have lined up for Rapid Strike 2 tournaments in a row and zero top eights. Like the metas, I felt like have been so good theoretically for Rapid Strike. Maybe not so much actually at Portland because Mew kind of had its way overall. Mew was definitely the most successful deck of the tournament. Okay, so San Antonio was lined up, and Mew's kind of back on its BS. So maybe Rapid Strike just can't line up very well for this tournament. But yeah, I guess Rapid Strike tournament was San Antonio. It didn't really do it there. I mean, Landing got ninth, so it was close. The bubble out. Um, but yeah, I don't think I'm teching for Rapid Strike, basically, is what I'm trying to say. So if you want it for the Miraidon, go for it. But it does it's not great in many other matchups. Like it's really good against Iron Hands, really good against Iron Hands. But like Lost Pile with hands isn't really a thing. Miraidon is still there. But it's not like Deoxys just fixes the matchup and you just win. You still need to get those pieces together and you still be cooking after that as well. Because they could go hands for two and then KO your Deoxys afterwards immediately with the Raichu. And if you don't have a response to that, then you're kind of cooked, right? So yeah, it doesn't just solve the matchup for you. And actually, to be honest, if they hands for two first and then you Deoxys, what do you do if they Tapu Koko your Deoxys? Just get those two prize
Are
cards,
we
right?
expecting people are playing the Tapu Koko still?
Oh yeah, I don't know why
That's the
you'd cut
next
it.
question, I
Yeah, I don't
feel
know why
like,
you'd.
when
I
we
don't know
move
why
on to
you'd.
Miraidon.
I don't know why you'd cut the
Well, do we
Koko.
expect Charizards to play Switch, right? Because
I
like,
do,
so,
but if
like,
we,
the Koko loses basically all of its value if Charizard just has a Switch in its deck, right?
that's true. I guess if they had, well, theoretically, you're gonna maybe be going back to the Path Judge build, like Moffat got top eight with.
But
Um,
he had Koko still.
Yeah, with the cocoa, that's what I'm saying.
Oh,
But
sure.
if Chargers are playing the actual Switch, then it's unlikely the cocoa ever sticks. If people are playing Turo, though, Coco's got a good shot of sticking.
Sure.
You can't Arvin for Turo. Um, and if you do, you're cheating. And even if you do, you then have to also somehow play a Turo after you Arvin for it, which is also not possible. But you can just Arvin for a Switch and get out of it. And that's why we played the Switch over something like a Turo or even an Escape Rope. The Switch is just the best card to answer Coco. So if people adopt the Switch technology, then Coco's probably not worth playing. But I don't know. I don't know how far people are going to go with playing a Switch card to begin with. Um, or are they going to go to their Turo route? Because if they go the Turo route, if you predict people playing Turos, then I would keep the Coco. But if you predict people playing Switches, I would cut the Coco.
Looking at Miraidon for this tournament, I think after San Antonio, basically everyone, well, it felt like the masses at least, like most people kind of just threw
Yeah.
the like Flaffy Miraidon with the researches and Ionos kind of to the side. And it was all about the Peony Miraidon. But if we're looking at the results from Portland, Flaffy Miraidon did pretty good overall. Obviously, Nick Moffat with his top eight, and he also he was the first seed going into top cut as well.
Yeah.
Um, you
Even
know,
yeah, had a rough draw against was lined up as pretty good as well because hit Bodie, which is a good matchup. But had some rough draws. I don't know if you saw that picture of his.
yeah, we talked about it last week.
Oh,
It
did
was
we
like
really? Yeah, it's pretty
he
bad.
started Flaffy and then just like
Pre-boss
unplayable
or something.
cards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, people back on. I mean, it's like 50-50, right? Right in the Portland, at least it was like 50-50. People still like the Peony builds. The
What
path
are
build
the
definitely gives
like pros
you.
and cons of one over the
Yeah,
other?
so the path build is gives you the better Charizard matchup. I think your Gardevoir matchup is better with the Peony build because you can just have a faster hands, and you always
Yeah.
play two hands
Yep.
for the most part. Whereas we're seeing these path builds have one hands in them. So if they can respond to the first hands, ideally you just want to respond with another hands into their shiny arcana and get two more prize cards. But if you only play one hands, you can't do that unless you have the super rod. But even then, you have to draw pretty well to be able to get it back and then go get it again. So it's really the Zard matchup. I think that the paths bring the most power against. Like this, the most reason to play the path build is for the better Charizard matchup. But Charizard is kind of on the decline a little bit, right? So going back to the Peony build, I guess would make a little bit of sense with the decline of Charizard, but does it make enough sense? It's not declining a whole ton. Like
The
Charizard
peony
still,
build is probably a bit better against the Giratinas as well.
yeah, more stadium outs, so you don't get
Yeah.
just cheesed by path. And you're really just looking to be swinging turn after turn after turn. So,
The
I guess the
fast
question
Iron
would just
Hands.
be is the question would just be I guess I'm not convinced that the Peony build is even not that it's not good, but that it's actually worth playing ever over the research build, just fundamentally. I'm not convinced of that yet, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's pretty close though. Especially because
It
we still see Moffat choosing to play the the research build and, like, still doing well. Like I said, one of the reasons to go to the path build is to go back to be able to, like, have a better Charizard matchup, but, yeah, I'm still actually not convinced because I think it's pretty close. Because there definitely is times where you play the Peony build and you're like, "Bro, I'm just like, I have no options every single turn. I'm living off my top deck." Where it's like with the research build, you're like, "And another research, I'll draw 7 more cards." Like,
Yeah.
um,
You have Iono, so if you fall behind, you, like, have a
yeah,
chance to win the
comeback
game still.
potential,
Yep.
so, yeah, I'm not actually quite sold on that Peony build is actually good, to be honest. Not it's like, is good in, like, the spectrum of Pokemon decks in the meta. It's on the good side of things, but when we're talking about what are the good decks, I feel like it might be a bad good deck. I'm not convinced yet, to be honest.
Well, now that we've talked about a bad good deck, let's talk about some good bad decks, maybe? If we're looking at these meta results, I mean, this is from online tournaments.
Of course, the hype is there. The
It's kind of
Go.
ridiculous that the 3rd and 4th most popular deck online the past 7 days have been Roaring Moon and Golden Go, Azul. What the heck?
People just like playing fun Pokemon decks, right? There's a decent amount of Golden Go hype here for sure recently. Um, yeah, the Golden Go's been having some hype. The Roaring Moon hype, I think, is kind of a carryover from kind of the hands Roaring Moon hype that was built up pre Portland. That's kind of carrying over a little bit. So we see that Gardevoir's down there at 5% in these online tournaments, but it's going to be 10% at the regional, right? Miraidon's down there at 6.2. That's going to be 10% at least at the regional. So yeah, we see the top two dogs, Tina and Zard. Those will be the top two dogs probably at Charlotte. But yeah, in online tournaments, things do get a little funky where you have this stuff like the Golden Goes and the Roaring Moons pop up, which will probably both be like 4, maybe 5%. Golden Go will probably be like 3% at Charlotte, right? So yeah, it's just like when cool new decks. I mean, people just like playing cool new Pokemon decks, and like there's like the hype behind the Golden Go and the Roaring Moon as being like the cool new Pokemon decks to like try out. So that's really all that it is. It's not there's not too much to read into. Like these decks will not be on the day one meta graphic at all.
Is there
I
merit
would
to
be
playing
surprised.
either of them, though, for the tournament?
No, I don't think so. Golden Go, I think maybe had its moment at its best moment. It's kind of weird. I talked to us on my stream the other day. I think Golden Go's the best time to play Golden Go was at San Antonio because it has a good Miraidon matchup. I feel like, and it's got a good Charizard matchup for sure. Because that was 18 and 17% of the meta. But the technology of the Palkia build of Golden Go really hadn't been discovered yet. So it's like, well, the best time to play Golden Go was before we knew the best way to play Golden Go, and people had really kind of started to refine the builds and lists. So it's like it could have never happened, basically. But in an alternate universe somewhere, Golden Go won San Antonio regionals, if you think about it. So yeah, I don't
An
think Golden
alternate
Goes
timeline where that one Japanese player, instead of going to the Kyoto Champions League, decided
went to San Antonio.
to go to San Antonio.
Yeah. But yeah, it has a like the Tina matchup is tough. You can get ahead pretty consistently, but then the Roxanne path is really hard to come back from, basically. So,
Playing
um,
melodic.
mm, it's just, the melodic is so bad, though. That's the problem with the melodic. It's so bad, so awkward to set up. But yeah, I don't think Golden Go's quite it. I think it's better than Roaring Moon, to be honest. I think though. I don't know. It's close. Roaring Moon with hands has also like surprised me a lot with how good it is. It's still a bad good deck, but they're just both bad good decks. Their matchup spreads just aren't wide enough. They got their good matchups, but it's like when you compare it to like a Charizard or a Tina or a Gardevoir or a Miraidon, it's like these decks can almost beat anything, and they just have their pros and cons. Where it's like the Golden Go is like I don't know, I can beat Charizard and Rhydon, but I'd prefer to not play against anything else. Like, that's not a deck you want to roll up to a tournament with because it's so much more than just the top half of the decks. You know, you have the Chien Pows, the Mews, the Rapid Strikes, the Snorlaxes. You want to be able to beat some of those consistently as
All
well.
right,
So, yeah.
Azul, if you had to play one of the two, Charlotte Regionals this weekend, you have to play Golden Go or you have to play Roaring Moon. You forgot all your other cards at home.
Oh,
These are the only
no.
2 decks you have the cards for.
Did Caleb also forget all of his other cards? Because he's got a lot of
Yes.
cards.
Yes. In this universe.
The vendors have no cards.
You're looking for an out as hard as possible. He's like, "Can I
Yeah.
not drive to Target and buy the Miraidon League Battle deck?" Like,
I would definitely go Moon Hands, I think. I'd go Moon Hands. I think it's got a much wider matchup spread. It's got hands in there. But hands is
you remembered your
eh,
hands. Okay, okay.
yeah, I'd play Moon Hands. Hands is just really good. Hands is just really, really good. So yeah, I remember my moons and my hands. That's it though. I'd have to go Moon Hands for sure.
Okay. And then the next deck to talk about, I mean, we've got Lost Zone variants, you know,
A
We've
lot of
seen
them.
the Sablezard do pretty well in this format, but
The
it's been a little
piles.
while since we've seen it in the meta. Is there still merit to that? Is it the Mirage Gate, Roaring Moon decks? Like, where are we at right now on just regular Lost Box? If someone flips over a Comfey and then they like don't get a Giratina down on turn one, like what are you anticipating is in their deck?
I mean, I'd hope it has Kyogre, but because it doesn't have his Kyogre, you're probably trolling. But yeah, they probably just missed their Tina on turn 1 is probably what happened. But yeah, I think Kyogre is still just the way to go for sure. Not a huge fan of Sablezard. I think it's okay. It does, like, get a little bit better in the meta, I guess, overall because of, Tina getting more popular. It's a pretty good matchup for Sablezard. The glass I guess it's really Kyogre or glasses for the piles, right? It's like Sablezard, glasses, Kyogre.
I feel like
Glasses
the
builds I just
Sablezard
don't like.
deck, you have to really feel like there's just not gonna be too much Miraidon or too much Iron Hands, right?
Or Guardies that are playing Jirachis. That's
Yeah.
tough. And everyone almost everyone, at least, like, it feels like 50% of the Guardies are Jirachi Cresselia, which I think is, like, impossible, but, yeah, I would definitely play, Kyogre. If I'm playing rolling up with a pile, I got hands in Kyogre there. Just, like, 2 of the best attackers in the game right now. Just put them both in the deck, let's start swinging. I don't know if I go the Tord route and include the Tina. Maybe not now because Charizard's less popular, but maybe Tina pairs up really well against Tina. Probably actually. Maybe I keep the Tina in there. Kyogre, Tina, Roaring Moon, start swinging. Some powerful attackers get in there. But definitely prefer that the Kyogre over the other stuff.
And then next up, the deck that I mean, with Tina won the tournament, got second place, but it really feels like the deck that kind of dominated
Yeah,
in
definitely.
Portland was Mew VMAX.
Mhm.
7 of the top 16 or 6 of the top 16. Yeah, 6 of the top 16 spots went to Mew VMAX. There's the fusions, there's the DTEs, and then all of the DTEs also had several fusion strike energies in their deck as well. So
Yeah, I mean, Mew's pretty solid right now. The Charizard matchup is closer if you play it well than a lot of people think. I think Fusion still comes up pretty short against Charizard, but the DTE builds that, like, Ian played and Vance played, it's only about like a 60-40 or 40-60 against Charizard. So your Charizard matchup is like not it's not one of those matches where you sit across from me and you're like, bro, I can't ever win this. Like, you have solid lines that you can take. And you are the most consistent deck in the format. I think DTMU is the most consistent deck in the format. You just play more games of Pokemon than any other deck, which is
plays
probably
more
its
games.
plays more games, plays the most games. Imagine if you had Arceus Mew
I will
VMAX, that'd be
say,
insane.
looking at the PokeStats live page, Ian did only play against one Charizard. He did beat it though.
The sack, bro.
And
Hey,
Vance
is
played
that
against 3 Charizard and he went 2 and 1.
yeah, yeah. So it is, like, close. Like I said, unfavored, I think, overall, but, I guess Ian could have played against is that a Sablezard against Ian, or is that a Lost Zone Charizard EX? How can you tell?
Probably a Sablezard. I think if it's Lost Zone Charizard EX, it goes Charizard then Comfey.
Oh, okay. That's how you can tell.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I think Mew seems like it's in a pretty good spot. It's got a good Tina matchup. Um, and then its main thing that held it back in the format was Charizard, and that's the main reason people weren't really checking for it.
I find
So Mew's got a decent amount of hype behind it right now. So the question is, I asked the wrong question the other day on stream. At first, I asked, should you tech from you? The question really isn't should you tech from you. Teching from you right now seems pretty good. The question is, will people tech from you? That's the actual question. And to be honest, I don't think people really are going to tech from you. I called a lot of people to tech from you in Portland, right? Didn't I say, like, you got to be sick of losing to Mew at this point, right? The techs are coming out if you're not playing Charizard. And there really wasn't that many Spiritombs or well, Drapion we haven't seen in a while, but Spiritomb would be like the go-to. I mean, there was one in like Moffat played the Spiritomb. But yeah, all these Mews either are Fusion Mew or have Fusion, so they don't just like fold to Spiritomb like they normally would.
does Drapion become a better tech?
The problem with Drapion is like you can't bump your own path as Tina, so Mew has full path control.
But maybe in a different deck, I
Oh, in a
guess.
different deck? Yeah, I
Like a
mean,
Miraidon or something like that.
I could see it. I could see Drapion being the play
There
in
you
like
go.
Miraidon potentially over Spiritomb. Yeah, I don't think that would be ridiculous to consider, for sure.
Once this is a stat from a friend in a group chat today. I
Oh,
have not fact checked this yet, but just throwing it out there. Said that of the top 16 Mews from Portland, their collective record against Charizard was 8-1 and 1.
jeez, that's not bad.
That's
Judge
kinda
Path.
crazy, right?
That is pretty good, yeah. Judge Path goes hard. I'm not gonna lie, I'm so confident. If I could roll up a Charizard tomorrow and play against 9 Mews, I would be down to lock in Charizard, but
Sure.
I don't think I'm playing against 9 Mews.
And then other than that, we've got the Rapid Strike, we've got some Chien-Pao, we've got Snorlax, some other decks kinda hanging around here. Rapid Strike, the deck you kind of already talked about. It feels like the metas have been super solid for it, but it hasn't been able to capitalize, and you feel like
Yeah,
that's a merit to the inconsistencies of the deck?
I think it does that's where it has to come from. I guess for Portland, it was Mew, to be honest. For Portland, it was Mew, but for San Antonio, there was no excuse for Rapstrike to not be in top 8, and it was close. Like I said, Landon bubbled out the top 8, I believe,
I think
was
Riley
ninth
lost a win and
was
in as well.
ninth place. I think Riley lost a winning in before winning in.
Okay,
Um, but maybe it was no, I think it was a winning in before winning
I'll
in.
find
So,
it.
like, but yeah, I think it's, I'm just not as confident as I was in the deck before. Like, I thought I would have seen more from it. Like I said, it's just one tournament theoretically if we think about how good Mew was at Portland, but I don't think Mew's going anywhere. People are becoming more confident in the Charizard matchup, learning that matchup a little bit more confident in Mew in general as a deck. So yeah, I think Rapid Strike, maybe it just kind of missed the mark at San Antonio, which just happens sometimes, right? Like, even if a deck is a good play, doesn't mean it's gonna make top 8. And then Portland, it was kind of tough for it, but it's not gonna get better for it. If Portland was tough for it, I don't think it's getting better for it at Charlotte meta wise. So yeah, I think it's time to put the Rapids down, or plan to go like, I don't know, 4-3 probably. That'd be
Where are we at in the Snorlax cycle? It didn't really feel like people were overly teched for it, honestly, in
no.
Portland, and it didn't. I think Cal lost a winning in.
I mean,
Um,
Cal and Hale were both near the top tables, like, towards
yeah,
the last
yeah.
couple rounds. So we actually had, like, we almost had one of those regionals where it was back to back, very similar top 8s. Because I made top 8 back to back. Grant was in a pretty good position going into day 2 and then starting day 2. And then Hale and Cal lost a winning in, I think. I think Cal literally lost a winning in. I don't know if Hale ever got to a winning in. Hale maybe won up to 20th place. And then Dan Hugar bubbled out of top 8. Although I feel like I think Dan probably should have played out that last round instead of ID, and I'm pretty sure Dan ID'd. Remember to
I think he
check your
did, yeah.
resistance on Pokidata. What is the Pokidata dot something?
.ovh, I
Yeah, you
think.
can literally check your resistance compared to the other players in the tournament and like figure out whether or not you should ID. So Pokidata, use it, figure out your resistance.
Yeah, Dan's resistance was bad. It was 47%.
Yeah, yeah. And I think I knew that too, because I think I checked people's resistances before going into the last round. um, but
Hale was Hale came into day 2 at 621, and then he lost round 1, and
oh,
then went 401 in the last 5 rounds.
okay, so it was never quite in contention for a
But then,
top 8.
yeah, like you said, I'm pretty sure Cal did indeed lose him winning into Maddox.
Yeah, I don't think many people are gonna be teching for Control, to be honest. But I don't think Control's gonna have a great time either. Like, Tina's on the rise, and I think the
That is
ratio
probably the worst that is the best reason to not play
yeah,
Snorlax right now,
but
right?
I think even worse, the amount of good players that will be playing Tina will be it'll be the most, like, the most skill in a deck in the Pokemon TCG will be in Tina, but it's not even a questionable, I don't think. There's a lot of really, really good players who like Tina, who are on Tina. Bradner's gonna be there, John's gonna be there. They're playing Tina. Like, I don't even think like we have to try and guess. Uh Dan, I don't know if Dan's going, but Dan will be on Tina. Like, there's gonna
Yeah.
be a lot of very good players on Tina. Snorlax does not seem like the play. I don't think the matchup is actually as bad as people think it is as well. Definitely winnable. I think even Cal actually beat Bradner at the tournament, I believe, in the early rounds, day 1. But it's definitely tough. Like, you're okay running going into the tournament, and being like, if I hit a couple Tinas, I'll try and make it work, especially if I'm not playing some of the best players in the world. But when you're like, I'm going to be hitting a lot of Tinas, and there's a decent chance a couple of them are the best players in the world, some of the best players in the
Yeah.
world. All right, maybe we put the Control down. I think it's time to put it down. Also, Mew's like not Mew's are kind of on that rise, and Mew can be tough for Control as well.
So let's do a couple of predictions then heading into Charlotte. Like we've said, going to be the largest regionals of all time. What do we think the most popular deck is going to be? We talked about this a little bit earlier in the cast, but lock in a prediction, Azul. Most popular day 1 deck. Actually,
We,
should we do most popular day 2 deck?
I
Is
think
that
it's
more
gonna be.
interesting?
I think it's gonna be the same.
You think it's going to be the same?
I mean, the conversion rate for Tina has been insane, and the most popular day 1 deck is also gonna be Tina. So, yeah, Tina's had a pretty crazy conversion rate the last couple tournaments. I'm pretty sure. So, There's no
I'm
reason
gonna
to
say
think
we're gonna
any
get a little
different.
bit of holdout from Charizard. I'm not gonna be surprised if Tina is the most popular deck, but I'm gonna give it to the Charizard as being still most popular, and even if it's not most popular, I think it is a close second to Giratina.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be I think it'll I don't think it'll drop too far off, and it's not like a terrible play, it's just, like, it's becoming a worse play than it
Yeah.
has been, so.
This is a prediction that you suggested, Azul, over under 1.5 repeat top eighters. So someone who has already made top eight this season, over under one person who has made top eight. What do you think? Biggest
Um,
tournament ever. How does that factor in as well?
that's true. I think I'm gonna have to go with the under then on that. I'm gonna go with the under.
So only one or fewer people.
It's gonna be me.
I was about to say, is it gonna be is it gonna be you?
Sorry, all the other top 8ers. You guys can be, like, top 16 or something.
I'm gonna take the over on this one, to be honest. I think the game is in a
Yeah,
good spot right now, and I think there's a lot of skill expression in the different decks and stuff like that, and opportunity to make maybe an aggressive meta read or something like that from
yeah.
a good player. So
I'm pretty
yeah.
sure also, like, I guess, to, like, help your case, like, I think Brent's coming as well. Brent's made a top 8 and is actually
Hmm.
making his way over to Charlotte. I don't know if any of the Europeans are coming. I assume a couple because it is the East Coast regional, so I think we'll have some more Europeans show up, but I'm not aware of any that are coming, but, there probably will be a couple.
And then a running it back prediction from our
Yeah.
Portland predictions. Highest placing Golden Go Azul. What do you think? There were a couple in day two of Portland. It's still that hype deck. People have had more time since Portland
Yeah.
to kind of get their hands on it, play around with the Gold Dingus. What do you think?
Yeah, the lists are getting refined, getting better. The meta is probably neutral. Actually, the meta is probably neutral for it overall because, like, well, maybe it's getting worse because more Tina, less Zard. So the meta's getting worse, but it'll be more popular probably. Let's give them. I mean, if someone gets a decent run with it, they almost had it. We almost had a couple decent runs with it in Portland. I think the highest placing was top 64, right? I think we could crack top 32. I think it's possible for sure. Let's get a top 32 for the Dingus.
And last time I probably made a pretty ill-advised prediction going with the top eight. And my faith, has definitely been a little shaken, but it's not broken. Give me another top 8 for the Gold Dingus. Come
Oh,
on. Well,
shut
not another. A first top 8 for the Gold
Yeah,
Dingus.
hold
This
on,
is
slow
the
down there.
time. Someone's going to play it. Someone's going to make the run. And you got to know, like, for the community vote as well. This should be huge incentive for people. If Golden Go EX is an option in the community vote, you're like 1,000% going to go on stream. Like, your deck is going to be voted for sure.
Yeah, you're on. You're in for sure. The Golden Go.
Well, Azul, I think that's going to do it for our episode this week. Before we get over to the bonus episode, you got anything else you want to say?
No, no, appreciate everyone sticking through us with this episode. I think we're a little I was a little bit incoherent this episode. I'm just tired. I was driving for 10 hours today already, 11. So yeah, I'm tired. So a little bit of an incoherent episode, but held it together nonetheless. Hope you all still enjoyed the content. Um, yeah, I just wanted to put that out there at the end here. Go
I
ahead,
think
send
you
us out,
held it
Chip.
together just fine, buddy. No worries at all. As always, guys, if you do enjoy the content, be sure to leave us a like, a rating, review wherever you're listening, comment on the YouTube video, and don't forget to check out our brand new channel at uncommon underscore energy on YouTube. Link is in the description. Be sure to check it out. Video will be out today, the day this podcast comes out. You're going to want to see it. It's going to be great. And yeah, if you want to stay up to date with us, the best place to do it is over on Twitter. You can follow myself at Chip Ritchie, Azul at Azul underscore GG. You can also follow the podcast at uncommon underscore energy.
Appreciate the support as always. Catch y'all next week. Best luck to anyone who's going to Charlotte. Yeah, see y'all next week, Wednesday, 7 a.m. Eastern.